Hello and welcome to a Friday. It is December 7th. Actually, it's my birthday. Just turned 30. Um, love the energy on Friday. So what I'm talking about here is a sales pipeline dashboard. You've got and it's different from all my other ones because I've built in a funnel chart and I've built in dynamic gauges for single point data visualization, which I'll tell you when I go through this is really hard to build these in Excel, so I'll show you how that happens. The funnels aren't that hard to do. Um, so the sales pipeline, let's just talk about why it's good. It helps people sell more of whatever they're selling. It's good for any salesman, any sales department. You can use this on an individual basis. You could have like 20 of these things that all roll up into a aggregate master dashboard that all look like this. So it's really helpful for salespeople to figure out what's in their pipeline, how much is in where, where do they need to be focusing, how's their win rate, um, how much have they won, how much have they lost. Um, it just kind of really gives a nice quick overview of where a given person is at for, the year. Um, Now this actually you can use this across multi-years. It's also got a single year analysis here to show what the plan is for the year, how much has been built to date, forecast, pipeline. You can use the win rate to get to a estimated finish. So this all automatically works as you roll through time because it knows um, what year it is, and you've got date stamps in the data tab, which we'll look at in a minute. But this is also a helpful tool here. Um, but the key is you want to kind of keep pushing stuff. You don't want these, opportunities and proposals long term um, to get too big. So you want to try to keep pushing things down the pipeline into either closed to won or lost. Um, and it's just a really helpful way for like account executives to really keep organized and know exactly where they're at and where they need to be focusing and just help performance. It's good for managers to see where all their salespeople are at. It's a nice, clear, simple way to view that. So let's get into how you can actually use this template. So it can be copied as many times as you want. Everything's as dynamic as it could be. Um, the formulas use the terms here. These terms are based on the validation here, and these can be changed to whatever you want to define your pipeline stages as. Um, but when you start out, you're going to go to this validation tab. You're going to define your stages and note that these stages are going to be whatever they kind of mean, which you can see some definitions down here. Whatever these stages mean, you want to keep it kind of the same because um, the well, actually, I mean, actually, you could change it to whatever you want now to think about it because there's nothing specific to whatever these five things are. The last two should always be won and lost in here in the validation. Now, forecast is a completely different thing. We'll get into that in a minute. But let's go over to our data. So all you have to do to use this is enter data here, and everything, all this is all automatic. So you can put in an account, you can put in the period, the amount per period. So this is like if you have a contract that pays out monthly, quarterly, or whatever, it does the math for you to fit it annualizes all of this. Um, and biennial is definitely that's how you do it, and that just means a payment once every 2 years. So I've just got a drop down here where you can pick monthly, quarterly, semi-annual, annual, biannual, and then you can pick locations if you want to. If everybody's entering data on one tab, this could be important, or this could be locations of your vendors. It could be locations of your sales department, whatever the case. There's a up to, I think I did 500 slots here just because give you unlimited functionality for that. Just more details on the deal here. You could pick vendors if you want. And then here's the most important part. So after you've identified the main details of the account, you pick what stage it's in, and you will always keep the account on the same row. The only thing you change is this. So you can, as you can see, you can put it to each stage. So long term is just means that something is kind of, it's not won or lost, but it's still possible, but you don't think it's going to happen in the next 3 months. So that's kind of where it sits, and that's at the top of your funnel there, and you want to know, how many deals you've got there and the value of those deals, and try to move them into the lower stages. Opportunity is just saying that you've got a new lead, kind of. It could basically be called a lead, and anytime something comes in, you'll put the date here, and this is basically the date. The opportunity is basically the date it becomes a lead, and this date is important for the calculation on the dashboard lower part, as well as the top part for sales cycle, because you're going to mark when it comes in and when it goes out, and that's going to be your sales cycle. So in is basically becoming a lead, out is either closed won or closed lost. So you mark the date, either one there. You can see if this was lost, the sales cycle knows to pick. It's using logic from all three columns here to automate, and this is just drug all the way down. So long-term opportunity proposals, obviously you've talked with the account and you've sent them over some numbers, and so things are moving along. Then follow-up is obviously if you've sent them things and you're waiting to see what they say. Sales pending is obviously they've committed to something you're about to close. And then obviously close won and lost is self-explanatory. Forecast is going to be if you've got accounts that they're not really leads yet, but they're what you plan on doing for the year. So you would put them in forecast first, and those actually don't hit the pipeline because they're not actually in your pipeline, they're forecast. So those won't show up anywhere here. They will show up in your current year's forecasting analysis because they'll show up in your forecast to figure out, where you might finish for the year. And again, those you don't have to move the row of them, you just change it from, let's say, it moves from forecast over to proposal or whatever the case is. So you can see these are also all color coded. If you want to change the colors, just look at, like, let's say I want to change long term as black right now. I'll just highlight the column, conditional formatting, manage rules. I can see black is right here. Let's say I want that to be a different color. I'll just go to edit rule. It's bringing me right to the thing. You can see it's based on the text equaling what's in validation A2, which is the word long term. You format. Let's say I wanted it to be let's say a grayish here. So hit OK, OK, and apply. And now long term is gray. I'm gonna undo that for now. But that's how you could change all these colors to whatever you want, or you could just remove it, remove the formatting, conditional formatting. But it helps you pop out things that you want to see details on. So as you change this, uh, the pipeline changes. You can see there. Let's say we got 600,000 of sales pending. Let's say um, this account for 320,000 a year has just moved to sales pending. You can see now there's 920,000 in sales pending. So we've got some other metrics down here. Total number of opportunities open. So this is counting everything from long-term to sales pending. And then it's doing the same thing, but for dollar value, those opportunities. It's doing average opportunity size, win rate, like the sales cycle. Now, the average or the win rate is just taking the wins relative to the total wins and losses. So over time, it's assumed that everything is going to either move, once it's an opportunity, it's eventually going to either be a win or a loss. So that's the only real conversion rate we're looking at is how much have you won out of the total opportunities that you've had. So let's say you have this thing over 10 years, the closed in one and the closed in loss is obviously going to start to grow a lot compared to what your pipeline is. That's why this closed one is not included in our funnel here because it just would get astronomical, wouldn't really make sense um, for the purpose of this. Now, if you were doing it for, say, 1 year at a time, then maybe you would do something like that, but this is more for an aggregate ongoing basis, and therefore we don't include it. But we still include it here just so you can see your total won and lost and what your rate of conversion is on opportunities. Um, and then average sales cycle is here. Obviously, you might have some targets for that, and you can see if you're hitting that target. So that's the funnel. I've also did a funnel, same thing here, but this shows just the count instead of the dollar value of everything. Same principles apply. And here's the cool part. With Excel, it's really hard to do gauges for single point data visualization. So here you can see we're trying to show like, okay, total opportunities open is 10. So how can I show that in some way that's meaningful in a visual? So what I've done here is built a needle. It's got different sections that equal different amounts. And you can see here, let's say I put it to 25. There, the needle moved to 25. And at the end of each section is whatever number is in the middle of it. So like here is 10, 28, and 38 is all the way at the max. You can see if I put it at 38, it goes all the way down to the max. So the cool part is that at least Excel does allow you to automate this. You can see it basically move from 0 to whatever the max is in between, and it's got some colors and decent formatting. Um, it's not as cool as the Google Sheet gauges, but it does have more flexibility in the coloring of it and fonts and all that. So we've done in Excel here. Now the way you would change these, assuming your numbers are different, you can see this is probably the most complicated part of the whole model is adjusting those. So like I've got opportunities here. What you want to do is figure out, okay, what's the max I want the opportunities to be? And you're going to want these three numbers here to equal that max. And then you're basically going to distribute the value of each section based on how big you want the middle and the ends to be. So let's say my sales cycle, uh, let's say I wanted the max to be 100, and so I would do um, well, first let's show you how the proportion has changed. Let's say instead of 10, 18, 10, I make it 5 and 5. You can see how the shape changes. So now the two ends are a little really small, the middle part's bigger. You could also make it, it doesn't necessarily have to be even. Let's say you wanted the first part to be like a 4, and then the middle to be like a 12. No, let's do like a 8, and then the bottom to be like a 15. You're not going to get something where your actually bigger part is over here. But that all that does is control the ratio of what section, how big each section is relative to the other one. So usually it's just the even amount. So let's say if you want to do 100, you can just do 20, 60, 20, because you usually you want your first and last to be. And this red, yellow, green is meaningless. This could you could put whatever you want here, but usually you want your front and last one to be even and your middle one to just be a couple um, times bigger than them. So there you go. There's what that would look like. Maybe you might want to even make those bigger. You might go 30, 30, and then 40. Now it's even more even. So that's how it works. And to make that work, the charts are targeting everything you see here. These are formulas because you don't need to manually input these figures, but these are affecting the chart as well. And then this is basically what your needle is, and all you really care about here, the value is just being referenced in whatever the value is. So see, it's 10 here, so it's going to here. Your needle size, I've made it a ratio of the blank area total, and I've done that because this is actually a whole pie chart on top of um, uh, a donut chart. So this little section here is actually part of a whole pie chart that goes all the way around, but the other stuff is blank. So you can actually control the width of that by changing this, and I've made it a ratio, so it's actually the width is the same on every gauge. And yeah, I know this is really difficult. This is I don't know why Excel has not put in chart functionality for gauges, but they haven't, so you have to kind of do these workaround builds. I try to make it look as nice as possible with what is available. Let's say I wanted that to be wider. So right now it's 2. Um, my numbers are up to 100. So let's say I want to make it a 5. You see, now look at that, just got proportionally wider, the needle. So you can control that independently in all of these. I've tried to make them as uniform as possible. And obviously these three numbers are going to be based on what your data point is. So opportunities is something that is um, not in the millions, so there's no point. Now, the opportunity value is in the millions, so whatever you want your endpoint to be, you can change these figures here to be it. And I've actually formatted, this is the format that shows up in the chart, which if you don't have it in millions, you can just go to custom format and just make it something else. Um, you could do thousands, millions. You can look up, there's all kinds of different formats you can do if you just Google like how to turn a number into thousands, millions, or have nothing, or if it doesn't need to be in denominated, you can just have the whole number show up. But I've done your value of the opportunity and pipeline in millions because that's probably going to fit the most use cases. Um, Same with opportunity size. So if I think the max opportunity size that's likely is a million, I've basically split it up that up into three parts for that section: 250, 500, 250, which you could see here adds up to a million. Whatever my average opportunity size is, it'll show up there. Now it is noted that these numbers are also not on a date basis, so this is just the lifetime of your pipeline, what the performance has been, and it will always show up in these gauges. Win rate's obviously up to 100%, so I just did 25, 50, 25 there on the breakdown. Um, and then sales cycle, again, I had the max at 50, but we could make that bigger if we wanted to. Um, oh, and I think I meant these are open opportunities, not the sales cycle at the front here. But this is nice because now it gives you a template to kind of you can work on it. Uh, you can duplicate this. You can do a lot of stuff with this because it's all automated. Um, but as it sits right here, it's good enough to give any organization a ton of value to improve their sales pipeline, increase their sales in general, and really tighten up their sales executives and or sales department, um, and get their numbers down, get them on goals. Uh, this really does all of that. So it might look kind of simple, but it actually has some really powerful information here and visuals and tracking, and it's all automated. All you have to do is you're just filling in this information in the pipeline tab, and that's it. Now, before I end this, you can see all these are gonna power the drop downs that you see in the pipeline, like all of these. And that's for data integrity, because if you ever want to analyze this data more in depth, or just for how we're doing it now, you want to make sure there's never an error in entering something, because if you get a lot of these, a lot of accounts going, and you're missing one because you have an error in the period, or an error in the stage you're in, you put extra space or forgot something in you know, one of the words, it won't show up, and then you're going to be all confused. So data validation kind of removes that issue. Um, so so this allows you to have drop down for all the things that are possible to have a drop down for. Now, if you don't want to drop down for your vendors or let's say your locations or something, you can just easily right click or you can go to data validation and just hit clear all. And you can see that'll remove the data validation, so you can write in whatever you want, and then you just drag that down, and that removes validation for all of it. Let me undo that. Okay, so it's not hard to adjust that. Talked about the colors, sales cycles, next steps. So that's, I mean, that's pretty much it. Now, what I have added here as a little add-on is a conversion funnel. So this is just kind of a actual model versus actual. So, and it's not necessarily for fits what's going on in the pipeline because this is doing conversions from stages. The pipeline is actually telling you what's in each stage at a given time. So this is a little bit different. Um, so it's just got some high level stuff here. Let's say you had 20 million annual traffic. You converted a certain percentage of those traffic to subscribers. Those subscribers, and a certain percentage of those went to leads. Certain percentage of those went to proposals. Certain percentage of those actually went to sales. And it just shows you how you get from your top, uh, metric to the bottom for sales and based on these conversions. So this is like a model here, so it shows you what your pipeline should look like, and then you could put in actuals here, like your actual traffic, your actual subscribers, leads, etc., and it will automatically calculate the conversion of each phase to the next, and actually show you your variance on your conversion that you had modeled here. Um, and then it will do the variance of the values here, so you can see 15 million is 25% less than 20 million, 200,000, 50% less than 400,000. So it's doing the actual values you got relative to the model, and then it's color coding it red or green based on it being positive or negative. Then there's an actual funnel for the actual, so you can compare what your actual funnel looked like for the year versus what the model looks like. So that's an interesting visual that you might find useful, and the math here might be useful as well. But this is not vital or really directly related to what's going on in the sales dashboard here. It's just an add-on, just to play with. You might want to delete the tab if you don't want it. That's fine. Um, so yeah, that's all I got for you. Sales dashboard. There's a million ways to do it. This is probably the best visual version of the pipeline I've ever done in Excel. Um, it's simple but effective and really straightforward. All right, if you do want this template, just go on over to smarthelping.com. The link's below, and it's a one-time purchase of $45. Trust me, that's nothing compared to, obviously if you have millions of dollars worth of pipeline to capture, if this can help you capture more of it, obviously it's a no-brainer. Um, and also, I do have like three or four other pipeline dashboards that kind of work a bit differently. I have some that, as you change the stage, it will actually move the data points into different tabs and report on a whole bunch of different stuff. All of those will be included in that $45 purchase automatically. Um, so that's a little bonus you get there. All right, guys, have a great Friday.